My name is Colette Watson, and you're tuned into a special Instagram Live conversation presented by Media 2070, the Media Reparations Project. But today we're discussing the connections between state violence against Black people and anti-Blackness in our media system. Today we're using the hashtag #TrustBlackJournalism. Media 2070, the Media Reparations Project, launched in October of 2020 with the focus of dreaming up a future world, where the media system no longer perpetuates myths of Black inferiority and criminality.
The conversation that we're in right now, the conversation that's been going on for the past few years, is a cyclical conversation that happens about every 50 years. There's pressure points. The things that we see people asking for now over the past few years are the same things that folks needed in 1921. It's the same things that folks needed in 1968. And what we don't want is for folks to be needing the same things in 50 years from now. So by the time we get to 2070, we have to be having a different conversation. There's no reason that we should be having the same conversation without significant movement for 150 years.
I always go back to Minister Malcolm saying that the irresponsible press, will make the criminal look like he's the victim, right? And make the victim look like he's the criminal. And if you aren't careful, right, that they'll have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. And that is something that has continued to hold true. I heard your colleague speaking about media injustice, which is so critical to unpack and talk about it and how it influences policy. I even think back to like the crime bill, in 1993, when the crime bill was passed in Washington State. Television coverage of crime more than doubled from 1992. And we can also get into conversations about what exactly is crime, right, for the criminals. And that's something we as Black journalists have to interrupt in newsrooms, is that we cannot start a conversation from the middle, right? By the time our children are dead on the ground, there have been systems and institutions in place to help pull that trigger. I will say, one of the most important things is the stories that we help shape, right? There are stories we help shape, there are narratives that we help get out to the public, and then when you get the larger story, you go to white newsrooms, right? You go to the places where you think you'll have more visibility, which is true. But we also have to prove when we're in these corporate structures that these are stories that you need to invest in. So when there are stories, when something is happening, tap into Black journalists. Like the title here is tonight, Trust Black Journalists to tell your stories. Trust Black journalists to make sure that we're treating you with the dignity and respect that you deserve. Trust us to know that this is important and it's critical, and it's not just clickbait. It's not just something that rolls around during the summers when, every single summer it's like they now care about police brutality, when we live with this every single day. So trust Black journalists to tell those stories.
Right, it's important that media is not just concerned about Black girls in response to our trauma and our death, but what it is for us to live full and joyous lives, right? There's so many things that newsrooms need to capture about Black girlhood. There's so much to capture, right? Is, in the words of one of my ambassadors, it's complex glory, right? But I think too often we focus on the complexity and not the glory. Right, and it's important that we distinguish that Black girlhood isn't heavy, but dealing with white supremacy and militarization and police violence is heavy.
It is a known fact that journalists of color are paid less, and we tend not to negotiate because we're just so happy to have that seat at the table. And we have to, on our side, we have to break that, and on their side, they have to do pay equity. They have to create a newsroom that has zero tolerance for abuse of Black journalists, for microaggressions, for any type of thing that makes Black journalists uncomfortable doing the job that you've paid them to do.
I want to share with you that what we're dreaming of is not just more people, toiling away underpaid and under-recognized in newsrooms. That's not what Media 2070 is dreaming of for 50 years from y'all now. We're dreaming of a future in which Black people have the capital necessary to create and control our own stories, from creation, through production, through distribution, and every step of that process. And that is a future in which we have acknowledged and reconciled the history of anti-Black media harm, and we have engaged in reparations. And through those reparations, our people should be abundant with resources in order to do our own storytelling and to change the reality of media and the reality of our cultural conditions.